My question's kind of related to some stuff that you've mentioned about kind of knowing what your company's mission is or the vision. And you've mentioned a little bit about knowing what your values are and recognizing when values are misaligned. So my question for you is, which values do you think got you to where you are in your career now? Are they the same as what they were when you started? Have they changed? What's your thoughts on that?
I did write some stuff on that, and it's a good question, by the way. And I did think about it. I actually wrote some stuff, and I sent it to Myra Jade, and she was like, damn, you actually took this seriously. And I was like, I had to spare 5 minutes, so I wrote 15 pages. So I was like, why not? I was thinking about it. I was like, I may as well write it down. By the way, anything you think, guys, write it down, because it helps you think better. And then you have a record of it. And then you look at it later and say, this is stupid. Who wrote this? But one thing was rule governed versus contingency shaped behavior has been a theme throughout my career. I did my dissertation on it. And just the long and short of it is, rules, there's all kinds of rules, but Skinner talked about them as contingency specifying stimuli. That sounds fancy. And that's only one way of talking about rules. We have all kinds of rules and we use them in all kinds of ways. But basically I say, don't walk outside between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. That's when it's raining down bullets. Okay, so what I did is I gave you a rule that specified a life and death contingency. Okay, it's an if then. It specifies an antecedent. If it is not for, if it is between 4 and 5, then do not go outside, right? Because this consequence will ensue, right? And that would be like a classic 3-term rule. You better not, if this ever happens, you better not do this because this other thing will happen. That specifies like a 3-term contingency, actually. And many rules, but not all, take that form, like no running, that kind of a thing. But anyway, you can be given a bunch of rules, or you could figure it out on your own. Let the universe talk to you. And that would be contingency shaped. Okay, that is, it's trial and error. Like a lot of my guitar playing, I did have some lessons, but many things I figured out on my own. And you fail and it hurts and it's wrong, and you do it a different way and it's comfortable. That's contingency shaped, right? And the thing about it is that you can't create beautiful art with rules. Okay, but you can't create beautiful art without them. And what I mean by that is, and it goes for behavior analysis as well, when you're learning how to draw and an artist, and I'm not an artist, my mother-in-law is a very good one and a very well-known one, and my sister used to be. And you have to learn the rules before you can break the rules. But all the great artists break all the rules, almost always. But you have to learn them first and be fluent with them first. But then you abandon them. And the reason is the rules hem you in by other people's reality. Okay, that they give you their reality, right? And sometimes they're very much too specific. And however, when you're a newbie, you tend to need more rules. Why? Your judgment isn't as good. How does that translate to listening to the universe? If your judgment sucks, it means you're not very good at paying attention to a myriad of variables, your own history, current things that are going on, and trying to predict where will all this go. All that kind of rolls into judgment, right? All that. But that's kind of contingency shaped. So if you go, I don't have the data, but I just gave it a big, long thought, and this all feels wrong. Okay, and that's kind of like, your judgment. That would be like contingency shaped. I'm not saying a rule to you. I'm taking everything in its totality and saying it feels wrong. That would be the universe speaking to you when you can't tact it. Okay, that's kind of what we're saying. If you talked about it behaviorally, if you said, I can't really give you a reason, but it just feels wrong. What you're saying behaviorally is, I cannot tact consciously any particular rule I'm following. Now, you may be under the control of some very subtle contingencies. You're just not able to communicate them to anybody at the time. This happens all the time. There's a bunch of things we do. Gee, I don't know why I said that, or how do you do that? I don't know, I just do it. Those kinds of things are contingency shaped. So what's kind of gone through a theme through my whole career, I think, that guided me is, one, not adhering too closely to rules, even my own. because my rules are usually a weak representation of reality that are used to guide me. We don't understand the things that we understand. You think the definition of reinforcement is really what reinforcement is? You think that's the totality of reinforcement? There's a stimulus, a behavior happens, and then we put out a stimulus, and then later on they do it more. Do you think that's all that happens when a reinforcing stimulus is introduced into the environment? Like million things happen, right? We've talked about a tiny snippet in time of a biological phylogenetic process, right? And we think we understand what reinforcement is. We don't know shit about reinforcement. We know just enough about it to like push things around a little bit and poke at it. And that's about it. Why? We're using somebody else's rule. We're using somebody else's rule that they put in their book, and a bunch of other people agreed with their rule. So now we all follow their rule, right? And we use their rule until a better one comes along. So anyway, it's the same thing. And I tell people in my talks, anything I tell you, don't take it as a rule. Don't take it as gospel. Think about it, hold it loosely, mess around with it, and then be willing to let go of it again. I think those are the most important things. Because I would see something and like, oh, this is the truth. I thought this was the truth, right? Knowing all kinds of cool BMOD procedures. I've been doing this a long time. And then Brian Iwata came out with a functional analysis. I'm like, oh shit, this is the shit. This is the truth. Now I can understand all behavior in terms of escape and avoid. I can solve nuclear Holocaust terrorism thanks to Brian Iwata, and escape, avoid, attention, and automatic. All right, I can understand, I can solve all the world's fucking problems with that one thing, because this is everything now. And then Hanley comes along and says, well, that's kind of narrow in its scope, which I've said for a long time, and I completely agree with him. And then somebody else is going to come along in 10 years and say, Hanley was on the right track, but here's where he went wrong. You know, and this is how things keep going, right? But I think that that's one of the really important things, is that as science, we hold on to our tenets with a loose grasp, right? We hold on to them, but with a loose grasp, not like you have the winning lottery ticket and the wind just kicked up, right? You know, you hold on to your concepts, you hold on to your things loosely. What's happening in the field, guys, by the way, is what happens in a lot of newer fields. The newbies coming out, getting machined out of the diploma mills, they're coming out up to here with rules. And if you have too many rules, it makes you insensitive to contingencies. It actually blinds you to them, and it makes you, the scientific term is mo dumber. Okay? It makes you mo dumber. You can quote me if you like. Okay? Because it blinds you to what's happening. So if you automatically assume you follow the rule, if you have a word written on your binder that says schizophrenia, that means we can't do anything for you. I'm following a rule that many behavior analysts have followed. By the way, I'm still running into this. We think it's not a behavioral issue. We think it's a mental health issue. That's rule following. That's rule following. You just made a rule, and here's what your rule says. You don't realize it, but this is what your rule just says. If there's something on paper that says something that's written in the DSM, then reinforcement doesn't work right, is what I actually said this to a Ph.D. behavior analyst, right? You know, I said, is this what you're saying? I was so pissed. But anyway, you know, that's kind of my point, is that if you just said, can we put our rules down for a moment? Even all our behavior analysis rules, like I'll tell this to people when they walk into a classroom, right? This is part of, I think, how I got where I am. I'm going to put everything down for a moment, everything I know about behavior analysis, and just ask this question. What the hell is happening in this room? Okay, what is happening? This kid is screaming. He looks unhappy. None of these people look happy with what they're doing. She looks really miserable, right? And I'm just kind of taking in a bigger thing, and I'm not trying to stick everything in the function box first chance I get. And so many behavior analysts I see do that. I'm just like, just relax for a second, drop your rules, listen to the universe, open up your eyes, forget everything you know about behavior just for a moment. You can pick it up again, right? Pretend you're just a regular person looking at something, trying to take in everything you can, and let it sink in, and then pick your stuff up again. You know, and this is why I don't like to be told what their label is. Merrill, do you want to know their diagnosis and see their binder? No. No, I don't. I want you to tell everyone not to tell me. Okay? Because it may bias me, because it may invoke some rules that I've been exposed to over the years, some that maybe I can't even tact, right? That's why I don't want to do it. So that's the way bias works. Anyway, but I think that's one of them. So, the other one I would say is just be careful about what you love, what you hate, what you fear, because these are what bias you. And it's screwed me over many times. So you get enamored with a technique, a person who you saw speak, you thought, man, this guy's so awesome, or this lady is so awesome. And I really love this procedure they did. It's really cool. And that's great to get excited about things. However, the more excited you get about it, the more you're biased. And the more you will overlook its shortcomings. Just like the person you married, okay? They have all kinds of shortcomings, but because you're positively biased towards them, you overlook them. Somebody else may not be able to tolerate them at all. And you go, oh, well, you don't know them like me. That's bias talking. That's bias talking, right? That's what it does. So all I just tell people is, when you're as I found myself getting excited about things, new things, I would also find myself getting kind of sucked into things that maybe weren't correct. So I would just say that one of those things also has been not being cynical, but skeptical of everything. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm not jumping on that bandwagon like ACT. Like everybody gets really excited about ACT. And I go, Merrill, aren't you excited about ACT? I go, I'm not going to say I'm excited about ACT. I've heard about it. Nothing makes me excited. Okay? And if you're gleeful over it, I am concerned. It is words. It is words. It's not a cool new thing that's Bluetooth connected to your refrigerator or something, okay? It's words. We've already had them. I can't get too excited about it. Okay, but my point is that not that you shouldn't do ACT or that ACT cannot be useful. My point is when you become a fanboy or girl, you bias yourself incredibly, and it shuts off certain avenues and it blinds you to certain shortcomings. And it's just something to be aware of. I mean, we're all subject to it. You can't. It's inherent with reinforcement. You can't escape it, but you can be aware of it and how it might be screwing you over on your analysis, on how easily you accept what somebody else tells you, right? And you have a number of things, procedures you love or assessments you love. They are sources of bias if you get way too into them. Yeah.
Merrill, you killed it as usual.
Oh, thank you very much.
I think, to sum up, what you're saying is, as enamored as we are with you, don't believe a word you say. Is that
you're right? Take it with a salt shaker of salt, not just a grain. Just say that's really interesting. I want to think about that more and try some things of my own and see if Merrill's really full of shit. That's what I'd rather people do. But yeah, that's all it is. I mean, and the thing is, I mentioned before, it's not that I get excited about stuff too, but here's the point. It's nice to get excited about things because they ring true to you. Like, oh my God, yes, I was just thinking that the other day. And you get jazzed because it clicks. It makes perfect sense. Not because it has multicolors and the person who said it and it's real slick and everybody else is doing it. And not the person who said it, but because the words ring true, the concept rings true. The concept is something you're like, yes, you're exactly right. Nobody ever does do that. That is exactly that thing. Getting excited about that, there's nothing wrong with. That's completely natural. I'm not saying never be happy when you see like a cool presentation or somebody who figured out an interesting solution to a problem, right? It's just that, getting crazy about products and procedures and,